Good evening, chat. Hello. It's been a day of days. It really has been a day of days there. Um, no, well, we don't have a Hell March. We do have some music I could play you guys in for. I think it's actually very good. The song hits. It's a real banger. Um, and I do want to play it in for you guys. But yes, we are dealing with the apprehension of Nicolas Maduro. And notice I said apprehension and arrest. We're going to get to that. And we're going to get to, we've done this before. We literally did this before. We've done this before. Many of you probably weren't. Well, some of you probably weren't alive for it. As we get started here, but we are gonna go through this. And but before we do, I think it's important to listen to the music. Listen to the music, chat. Playing us on right now is the talented Nicolas Maduro as he works his DJing skills. Anyway, chat, there we go. That is the lovely musical stylings of Nicolas Maduro. Notice, chat, he's able to do it with both eyes closed, actually. Careful of getting copyright struck. I think we'll be all right there, chat. But I think it's important. Even in that situation, he is engaged. Anyway, if you guys were asleep last night during the early morning hours, the United States military engaged in an operation to conduct a strike into Caracas, the heart of the Venezuelan capital. And for those of you who aren't aware of what or where Caracas is, or for those of you who don't know anything at all, I guess we'll pull up the map right now. And we'll start off with the obvious things here. Where is Venezuela? Well, Venezuela is in South America. It's on the northern shores of South America, on the edge of the Caribbean Sea. And Venezuela is here. So if you notice, it borders Brazil, it borders Colombia, and it borders Guyana. Well, the capital of Venezuela is Caracas. And Caracas is a massive, massive city. 3.5 million people. It is huge. It is huge. And if you notice, most of Venezuela's rainforest and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, okay, makes sense. Anyway, forces operating out of the carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, the USS Ford was operating here off of Dominica. There were planes operating out of Puerto Rico, many of them flying in a racetrack pattern for refueling purposes and whatnot. And then also probably the USS Iwo Jima, the Marine amphibious ship, got into range here and allowed helicopters to infiltrate into Caracas. While this all happened, we engaged in suppression of enemy air defenses, attacked the power structures and the power networks in Venezuela, which probably weren't too bad, and really defeated everything that was going on. And then it allowed the U.S. Military, particularly the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, the Night Stalkers, along with other JSOC units, from what we understand, mainly Delta Force, to operate with impunity over the city where they promised so much death and destruction. And this is funny because this is to the Macarena, which I think those guys came from Venezuela. But anyway, these are MH-60 Blackhawks. the Spec Ops versions with the fueling probes, taking off from somewhere, parts unknown. We don't really know where this is from. But we do have other videos and other things that we do have track of that show a lot of crazy, crazy things here. So, for example, this video here shows multiple helicopters, including Black Hawks, but also Chinook helicopters, massive troop-carrying transports, chugging along. And that just shows you how effective the military had suppressed any defense in the city. And here they are just cruising along. And I like how the explosions are going off as the helicopters are flying by. I'm like, it's not like a Call of Duty mission or Battlefield. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Mamá huevo, qué locura. Mocaí. Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda.
I don't know what he's saying. Un necesito un burrito, I think, maybe. This is actually a better video. It shows the helicopters up close. And it does a very good job of showing you just what's going on.
Están atacando el fuerte.
And you can hear them flying along. So a lot of military aircraft were flying around, and it was very impressive how they did this. Top notch. No losses were sustained. I think a helicopter suffered damage, but there were no casualties on the United States side. Certainly, some of the Bolivarian armed forces defending the brave Venezuelans. Yes, a bunch of those guys probably got schwacked, but they're commies, so I don't really feel too bad about them. And there has been there was an attack on the mausoleum of and this is just really to rub it in here, but this was a thing here that I thought was hilarious. Somebody back in November tweeted out a picture of Hugo Chavez as the former president and dictator of Colombia, a true commie. You know, this guy, I think it's very funny. Back in November, he says, "Bomb Chavez's tomb, please." Pick related his tomb, November 16th. And yes, this got hit. It took a direct fucking hit. And you notice, look at this tomb in his mausoleum amongst the favela and the slums. Yeah, and that's just not just nobody. That's Caleb. Yes. Yes, and that was when Wild Gold. Yes, and there was a time, chat, when the Bolivar, the Venezuelan currency, unit of currency, was worth less than gold and in-game items on World of Warcraft. Yes, I do remember hearing about all this. But yes, that was attacked, and it was left a massive flaming wreck. I have not seen the pictures of it, but you can see during the night, this was just lit on fire and just burning. And you can see some of the people's commands here, you know, from like hours ago. Consider it done. And I do like this one the most. You know, here's Hugo Chavez, and you know, here comes Trump, knocking through him. So it's tacky. Yeah, well, hey, you got to take care of it. JLR says, the people really cheering? Yes. They are. There are a lot of Venezuelans cheering throughout, like Florida, especially the Venezuelan communities, the diasporas are cheering for it. Anybody who's not stuck in Venezuela is probably having the time of their life right now because they want to go home. They want to go home. They want to go home to their country. And Debbie, we'll get to that question. We'll get to this question here. What is the significance of 4F? I don't actually know. I don't know what it is, so it's some goober communism stuff. And Tech Guy Sal says, actually, that's not a favela because it doesn't come from the favela region of Brazil. Yes, unless it's a favela in, unless it comes from Rio or Sao Paulo, it is not a true favela. It's just a sparkling slum. But yes, these are just shanty towns built on hillsides. And if you've played Call of Duty, you know how dangerous these could be. Cryptex says the favelas of Venezuela are called comunas. Okay, well, we can call them a comuna. So yes, the comunas. As this happened, what we learned is that Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured. They were apprehended by Delta Force or Combat Applications Group or First Special Forces Operational Attachment Delta, whatever you prefer to know them by and name them by. Yes, the tier 1 of the most elite of the tier 1 units went in and snatched him up. And he was brought on board the USS Iwo Jima. And if you guys have ever watched Sicario, this is what happened to him. He was given a at that point, he yes. You can see he's on the USS Iwo Jima. He is handcuffed, and he's also wearing ear protection, and also he's not able to see. And if you guys have ever watched Sicario, well, he doesn't get to know where he's at. He is a prisoner right now. And yes, he is under arrest. Not captured. He's under arrest. And so is his wife. And yes, we had a chance to do a helicopter ride to him. And yes, a communist rode in a helicopter and didn't get thrown out of it. Sadly. But it did happen. Yes, it does look like Dr. Disrespect. Since that time, Nicolas Maduro has been brought back to the United States. He was perp walked basically off of a DOJ airplane that landed in suburban New York and was preparing to transport him to his final place of residement for the near future, which is the Southern District of New York. Where he ended up at was Stewart Air Force Base right outside of Orange. Well, it's like kind of like where they do Orange. It's like you do Orange County choppers and all that. It's like just up the Hudson River. They transported him from there. He was transported by helicopter to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Manhattan, in federal jail, in federal lockup. Now, it's Newburgh. Okay, thank you, Vinyl. Yeah. Yes, the same place as Epstein, the same place as Ghislaine Maxwell, same place as Diddy, same place as R. Kelly. Yep. And from there, he is now facing an indictment. And he's been indicted actually since 2020. But here we go, chat. Here we go. It's out of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. So notice how this all happened, and I will actually go back because we need to do a little bit of clarification here. That's why he was on a DOJ airplane. That's why the pictures of him, there's a picture of him being accompanied by 2 DEA agents. Very likely there was a DEA agent or an FBI agent that went along with the Delta unit to go arrest him, to be there to effectuate the arrest, because Delta Force guys can't really effectuate the arrest. That's not their job. Now, from here, he was brought back. He is now being tried. And like I said, we've done this before. This is not new. Trying a South American or Latin American dictator. So what is this? Well, this is a sealed superseding indictment. This got released today. It's a certified hood single. It's a certified hood classic. So United States of America versus Nicolas Maduro Moros. And then Diosdado Cabello Rondon. And that is one of the people who helps this is one of the henchmen for Maduro. He is the Minister of Justice and People's Power. Actually, hold on. How do you pronounce that again? How do you pronounce this? Yes. Well, he's the executive vice president of Venezuela, which sounds like a meme, but he is technically the executive vice president of Venezuela Corporation. He is also the Minister of Interior, Justice of the Peace, and People Power. Yes. Now, from here, there are other parties that you can see on here, including his wife, Celia. Celia Adelia Flores de Maduro. Then they have other people who have been listed here, and they are all defendants. So even his wife is being charged. And what is this? And when they point out for over 25 years, the leaders of Venezuela have abused their positions and corrupted once legitimate institutions to import tons of cocaine into the United States. Yes. They point out Nicolas Maduro is at the forefront of that corruption. He has tarnished every public office he has held. He's at Venezuela's National Assembly. He moved loads of cocaine under the protection of law enforcement as Venezuela's foreign minister. He provided diplomatic passports to drug traffickers, facilitated diplomatic cover for planes for money launderers, to repatriate drug proceeds. And as president and now de facto ruler, and why do we say de facto? Because he's not the legal ruler of Venezuela. And I know you might say, well, he's not now. No, but there was a Venezuelan election, and it didn't go as planned. And from here, he was losing, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to lose. So he just refused to give him power and went after his opponents. So they thumped him in the race, and yes, somehow he still won. But that is where we are with this. So if you guys are wondering why he was an illegitimate ruler based on the way things are actually counted. Nobody actually believes he won. They believe he screwed around, but that is where we are for Maduro. That's why they list him as there. Now going on from here, because he took over after Hugo Chavez died. And then as the de facto ruler, he allowed cocaine-fueled corruption to flourish for his own benefit. He now sits atop, he has leveraged all the power. And he used this to entrench and enrich his homies, which is normal, including Diosdado Cabello Rondon, the Minister of Interior and Justice, Ramon. I only know this because of Reza Ramon Rodriguez. Chashin. I don't know. Do I look like I speak Spanish? And it goes on. It also includes the First Lady of Venezuela. It also includes his son, Maduro's son, the members of Venezuela's National Assembly, Nicolas Ernesto Maduro Guerra, a.k.a. Nicolasito, a.k.a. the Prince. Wouldn't it be El Prince or Los Prince? And it keeps on going, and this is not uncommon. So, anyways, what happened? Well, here's where it starts to get interesting. In and about 1999, Maduro and his buddies partnered with the Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia. FARC, guys. Literal communist in Colombia. These people were absolutely disgusting. FARC now. FARC is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely horrible people. And then the ELN is the National Liberation Army of Colombia, is another far left anarcho-communist, actually Marxist-Leninist communist group. Like, they're literally working as fellow communists, working and socialists, working with actual communist guerrillas in Colombia. The Sinaloa cartel, okay. The Zetas, which you guys remember, Los Zetas, those were the baddest dudes on the block for a while. And then Trendy Arugula, TDA. Let's see here. So they say in some they partnered with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco terrorists in the world. Yes. And here's the thing. While the cartels were designated as terrorist organizations recently, the FARC and the ELN have been around for a while. They've been designated as terrorist organizations for a long, long time. You know, they've been considered terrorist organizations for years and years and years now. In Colombia itself. But going all the way back to here's the list of all the different terrorist organizations on there. The ELN, the National Liberation Army of Colombia. 1997. Yes, like these guys are on there with groups like the PKK, the PLFP, all these really like Shining Path, Hamas, Abu Sayyaf, Al Qaeda, the IRA. Like, these guys are on there with some bad dudes. Ansar al-Islam, you know, real bad people. Al Shabaab. You know, for those Somalians out there, we didn't forget about you and your buddies. The Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan, which means a Pakistani Taliban. You know, Boko Haram, like ISIS. Like, you know, these are all real, like, horrible organizations. And then you finally see, for some reason, FARC was never added until 2021, but they are clearly on there for a while. And then there wasn't anything added for a long time until obviously the cartels got added. More gangs have been added in the meantime. And yes, you can see now armed proletariat justice, revolutionary class self-defense, commies, international anarchist federations, Antifa Ost. And you're like, wow, sounds like, you know, commie groups. Yes, all kinds. Now, yes, Asian Dawn. Yes, you can read about them in Time magazine. But they've worked with the worst of the worst people here, is what they're pointing out. So they point out that Nicolas Maduro is he's a Venezuelan citizen. He was president, he was elected, but he lost in recent elections. So he's the de facto, but not the de jure ruler of Venezuela. He was in their National Assembly for a while. Then he became the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then he became vice president. And then he succeeded Hugo Chavez in at about 2013. And then, you know, started working. Then in about 2018, he declared victory in a disputed and condemned election in Venezuela. Yes. So they say on or about 2019, the National Assembly declared that he had usurped power and was not the legitimate president. And you know what he said? I don't care. I stay as president of Venezuela, is what he said. And I don't know why he says it like Ethan Ralph, but that's what he does. I forgot about the part about being a bus driver. Well, I'm sure he, you know, I forgot about that. I don't really care if he's a bus driver. He could have sold enchiladas for all I care, or tamales. So, and hold on one second, chat. All right, chat, we're back. We're back. Yes. Yes, El Ralpha Mail. Yes, he makes a mean torta. Now, what did he do from here? Well, he's like, I'm going to run it anyway. But anyways, 50 countries, including the U.S., refused to recognize him. And then once again, in 2024, there was another election, and Maduro declared himself the winner again. Rondon is the Venezuelan Interior Minister of Justice and Peace. And he's the vice president of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela. Like, yes, these guys are literally fucking commies, people. Literal communists. Anyways, this guy was chief of staff to Chavez back in 2001. And guys, Chavez was a colonel. He ended up leading a coup to restore Bolivarian principles from Simon Bolivar. He's like their George Washington. He became the governor of the state of Miranda. He became the president of the National Assembly. And then later on, he became a member of the president of the National Assembly. And, they created this illegitimate organization to follow along, which siphoned constitutional powers from the National Assembly and gave Maduro more power and entrenched them. And then from there, you have Ramon Rodriguez Chachin. I don't know. Chachin, I don't. He's a former member of the military, and that's a thing. There's a lot of these guys are former military members. Once again, Hugo Chavez was a colonel, and that's what happens. He became part of the junta that they run. The first lady, Celia, she married and she had a long political career. She was president of the National Assembly. His son is a politician who's corrupt. Imagine that. After his dad became president, he appointed his son head of the Corps of Special Inspectors of the Presidency, a position that was created for him. It's like, wow, that's not nepotism. I mean, Joe Biden, eat your heart out. At least he protected, Joe, he could protect his boy. You couldn't protect Hunter. And this is where he continues to hold office, and that's true. We did not snatch him up. There's Nino Guerrero. Doesn't Nino mean like little boy or little? Anyways, he is Hector Rushdenford Guerrero Flores, I think. He has served as leader, the co-founder of Trendy Arugula, during which time they've done all kinds of things, bad stuff there. And they talk about the narco-terrorist organizations they work with. The FARC, has been around forever. And they are dedicated. Oh, hold on here. What is going on? I don't know what I can't read this, John. I don't read Espanolish. What is this? I can't read it. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna have to translate it later. But FARC has been around forever. They've generated revenue. They're one of the largest producers of cocaine in the world, and they are. They've also had violent acts against U.S. persons and property in foreign jurisdictions, including not limited to Colombia. If you guys don't understand, FARC was involved in a massive civil war in Colombia. There was, if you guys ever heard the AUC, the Auto Union Defense Forces, basically it was a right-wing paramilitary group versus a left-wing paramilitary group, and they were fucking brawling it out in Colombia during the time that Pablo Escobar was running around, and they were going full tilt. So you had like the government, you had the commies, you had the right wing, and then you had the cartels, and they were all just in the mix. Now, a lot of times the cartels, the right wing, and the government were all on one side because they all kind of got along for general different reasons. But then, you had a five-way fight after a while because then Los Pepes, which were the people who were the victims of the cartel violence, started fighting everybody. Colombia in the 90s was a very, very, in 80s and 90s, a very dangerous place. Very, very dangerous place. Wasn't FARC the inspiration for Clear and Present Danger? Amongst the cartel stuff, yes. But the cartel stuff in general acted, but yes, that is correct. Yes, Los Pepes. Los Pepes, it was an acronym for the people persecuted by Pablo Escobar and the drug cartels. Because by that point, it became a vigilante group. And they killed anybody who they suspected of being involved with the cartels. They weren't always correct. But in the meantime, because the government wasn't doing anything, these people were hunting down the cartels on their own. Cryptex says, I survived as a Colombian that time. It was hell. Yeah. Watch Narcos, and that's correct. If you watch the first season of Narcos, you'll get the vibe for how everything was going there. And like I said, the FARC and the AUC and like those guys were both bloodthirsty, and they would just go at it. It was very, very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Yes, funded by the CIA and the DEA. Yes, 100%. That happened a lot, and it was an awful, awful thing that happened. There. So anyway, from 2003 to 2008, FARC leadership ordered FARC members to kidnap and murder U.S. citizens, which happened a lot, and attack U.S. interests in order to dissuade them from continuing efforts to disrupt FARC's manufacturing of drugs. So in about 1997, the State Department designated FARC as a foreign terrorist group. And then in 2001, the State Department removed them from the list. It simultaneously designated two FARC successor organizations. And that's what I thought. But when we looked at the list, FARC wasn't on the 97 thing. So they designated other FARC groups. So the FARC EP and Segunda Marquetalia, both of which remain designated. And yes, ELN is another Colombian terrorist group. They want to do the violent overthrow of the democratic government of Colombia, which is how FARC wants to operate. They want a communist government. They do attacks on the civilians and law enforcement in Colombia. They send tons of cocaine to the U.S. Then there's the Sinaloa cartel, which, we know who they are. Yes. And then, the Sinaloa cartel is run by a guy in the early 2000s named Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Loera, also known as El Chapo. Then there was also a guy known as El Mayo. But yes, they were the Sinaloa cartel. They were some of the most, they were number one for a long time. Then there were the Los Zetas, known as a Cartel de Noreste. They were basically, think about it as like members of the SOCOM decided to quit and go run a cartel. They were a lot of U.S. trained paramilitary people through the school in the Americas who we're going to just start screwing around. Then there's TDA. We already know who TDA is. Trendy Arugula. And yes, in February 2025, they were designated an FTO. There's also an Alien Enemies Act, things against them. All kinds of fun stuff there about them. I love how you pronounce the Spanish word, Sean. I am a horribly illiterate white guy from Ohio. Please give me a break. I try. Yes, El Jamon, and El Queso. El Queso Blanco, that'd be my name. Yep, they totally none of this was totally a CIA operation, just like ISIS wasn't. Amateur Iconoclasts FARC was disbanded in 2017. Oh, I'm totally sure they gave up. Yeah. So I don't buy that they are. I support the Mayo faction for their sandwich-related reasons, yes. Yes, and finally there was El Tomato. I need to get Erica on stream so she can talk about the favelas. Oh. Yes, this is anyways, guys, this is serious. This is all these groups, we know who they are, and we can skip through some of this because we already know who these people are. We already know who they are. There were FARC fan fags in 2017 on the internet. Yeah, there are. There were. Yes, the thing there. Yes, and LJ, I'll get to the other super chats in a second, but yes, it's over, Maduro bros. It is really going to be very quickly over. Thank you for the super chat here. But they talk about the corrupt drug trafficking here, and this is, I mean, obviously, they're engaging in drug trafficking with the, Cartel de los Sols, or the Cartel of the Suns, which is a little weird. It's kind of, that's not the scariest name for your cartel. Is like, we're the Cartel of the Suns. Like, who's scared of that? It's a reference to the sun insignia affixed to the uniforms of high-ranking Venezuelan government officials. Okay, well, we keep going here. And they say Venezuela sits in a geographically valuable location for drug traffickers. Yes. And that's very true, guys. Venezuela is in a unique position. When you look at Venezuela, it is on a very great spot, especially with Colombia. If you're working together with Colombian terrorist groups, guess what you can do? There's the Panama Canal. And then also you have all these Caribbean islands. And if you can get to Puerto Rico, you're inside the United States. The idea is you don't ship cocaine like, I mean, you could. But in reality, what are you going to do? You're going to ship cocaine up through the islands. Also, a lot of cocaine out of Venezuela, whatnot, goes to Europe. A lot of Colombian cocaine goes up to the United States. But either way, there's still stuff going up this way too. Now, this is big because we also have, and I brought this up last night, there's geopolitical issues here. For those of you who aren't Americans, obviously we have the Western Hemisphere here. This is the Western Hemisphere. And inside of this Western Hemisphere, courtesy of President James Monroe in the 1820s, we have the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine is the U.S. will govern and handle business inside the Western Hemisphere, and it's hands off for everyone else. No European interference and colonization would be tolerated. But also, nowadays that means the CCP, go fuck off. And that means the Russians, go fuck off. That also means the Iranian government, the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards Council. They can go fuck themselves too. It's our lawn. Get off it. Well, this is a big thing here because, once again, China has access to the Panama Canal. China has access to the Western Pacific. Russia has access this way. So does Iran. And why is that important? Venezuela has a ton of natural resources, a lot of offshore oil drillings available. The area with Guyana right here is subject to massive deposits, unproven, of rare earth minerals and silver. Although at this point now, we have found a bunch of rare earth minerals since over the past year and a half, a bunch of rare earth minerals in the Utah area into Wyoming. So we probably have more than them at this point. But this is where we are. There are a lot of geopolitical things going at play here too, but we're also getting them for drug trafficking. So just keep this in mind. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But yes, Venezuela's at a geographically valuable location. It has several large ports and access to the western access to the mountainous regions of Colombia where the cocaine is grown. And then starting in about 1999, Venezuela became a safe haven for drug traffickers willing to pay for protection, which, it happens. And they say in this environment, cocaine trafficking flourished. Venezuelan officials, including Maduro, including Rondon, including Shekhin, including his Mrs. Maduro, including the child Maduro, worked with all these cocaine traffickers. And that by about 2020... Hold on here, Chad. I'm trying to get Clyde. Clyde came up to me and he's like, come here. He's like, help me, fat man. I'm like, come here, bud. Hey. Buddy. Like, he puts his paws up on me and I look down at him and he's like, please help. And I scratch his head and I turn a little bit to let him grab him. And he's like, no, I'm good. It's like, dogs are like little kids sometimes. Anyway, by 2020, the State Department estimated between 250 and 200 tons of cocaine went through Venezuela annually. That's a lot of cocaine, chat. That is a lot of cocaine. That's hitting the slopes. By the way, we have our guest along with us, drug trafficking expert and counterterrorism expert, Clyde T-Dog. He's going to join us for a bit here. So let's get back to this. Say the maritime shipments would go through Venezuela's coastline using go-fast boats. Air shipments were often dispatched to clandestine airstrips. If you guys have ever watched American Made with Tom Cruise, that is a Barry Seal was the guy's name. Flying cocaine was an older way of doing it. The easier way now is the go-fast boats and the cigarette boats that we've been blowing up. And if you guys don't realize this, and this is the one thing I think people need to understand about the map of this area is really quick. You could see all the islands. This is Venezuela right here. This is Trinidad, guys. You know, this is all Venezuela right here. This is Trinidad. And that's Tobago. Like, this shit, like, these guys are close to the islands. And look how far they are from Grenada. Grenada's not very far. And just so you guys, if you guys are not aware, the major U.S. naval base in Puerto Rico is Roosevelt Roads. Right there. To Caracas, from here to here, chat, is 500 miles. It's not that far. At first, I thought it was a lot farther than that. I thought it was closer to 1,000. It's only 500 miles. I don't know if that's like what? That's like 20 kilometers or whatever. Yeah, but we didn't launch out. You guys are saying Curacao and Aruba. Yeah, but we wouldn't have got permission from the Dutch government to do that. So we wouldn't have launched out of Curacao. Anyways, that's a long way away anyway. But it's 500 miles from Puerto Rico to Caracas, where in Puerto Rico is where all the units were being stored. Yeah, it's like 20 minutes at a fighter plane. So anyway, throughout this trafficking, Maduro did everything they could. They had transshipment points in Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico, and relied on a culture of corruption, which, you know, drug traffickers paid a portion of their own profits to politicians who protected them. And in turn, they did all they could. So too were politicians along the Caribbean route. They would go through, they would traffic cocaine. Favorite trackers could operate with impunity. You know, it's just, yeah, going from Venezuela all the way north to the United States. And they've done this routinely. They did this all the time. And these terrorists work directly and send profits through, but also reap the benefits of the increased value of the cocaine. At each transshipment point, yes, the price goes up the farther you get away from the source. But anyways, the organizations were FARC and the ELN, the Sinaloa cartel, the Zetas, and the TDA. So they talk about all this. And they, you know, we don't really have to go through this, but you guys understand the idea of drug trafficking. It's not hard. We're not going to get that. It's the issue of the overt acts. Because there's a lot of things these guys have been charged with. And if you're looking at overt acts, guess what they're being charged with? Conspiracy. A conspiracy requires overt acts and furtherance. Overt acts and furtherance. If you ever see these words, these 4 words, that's the code word for we're charging these people with a conspiracy. We're charging these people with a conspiracy. So they engaged in a relentless campaign of trafficking cocaine throughout the time period charged here. They say throughout, Maduro, along with members of his family, provided law enforcement cover, logistical support, and through Venezuela. This occurred regularly and repeatedly throughout the time period. And here are examples of it. Well, between 2006 and 2008, while as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is their Secretary of State, he sold Venezuela diplomatic passports, chat. And diplomatic passports are important. Diplomatic passports, this is kind of like Lethal Weapon 2. You do get diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic passports allow you and acknowledge that you are not to be hassled. You do not have to, you cannot be inspected. You could have diplomatic bags, which are not to be accessed by anyone. Diplomatic passports are special. There are, if you've never seen a diplomatic passport for the United States, it is a special passport. We have blue passports, you and I. A diplomatic passport's black. Now, just because you have one of these doesn't mean you can't be held responsible for anything. If you commit a crime, the country that you're in could say, fine, we can't punish you, but we can kick you out. And you get expelled and get declared persona non grata, meaning you're not welcome anymore. But there are diplomatic passports. This is traditional how this works. You get your black passport and you get to go around. We have diplomatic passports. It allowed them to move under diplomatic cover. So what would they do? Well, they moved things on private planes under diplomatic cover because the flights didn't receive scrutiny from military or government officials. You're not allowed to inspect those. You're not allowed to inspect those planes under treaty and convention. Diplomats are not to be hassled. Many times he would call the Venezuelan embassy in Mexico to advise a diplomatic mission would be arriving by private plane. And then the traffickers met with the Venezuelan ambassador to Mexico, under the auspices of a diplomatic mission. The plane was loaded with drugs and then would return to Venezuela under diplomatic cover. At that time, his wife, attended meetings where she received hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to broker meetings between large-scale drug traffickers and the director of Venezuela's National Anti-Drug Office. Well, that's great. They later had to pay bribes to this guy, in addition to $100,000 for each flight to ensure safe passage, which she then got to wet her beak on. And notice, guys, it's all about everybody's going to wet their beak. Everybody. You got to wet your beak. Think about this. It's 2007. She's skimming off of this $100K that has to get paid for each flight. Not once a month, not once a week, not once a year. $100,000 per flight. $100,000 per flight. Think about it. If she's only pulling off a couple of G's off of each one of those, that's a lot of money every time, guys. Even if she's only getting a couple of percent. Now, I presume she's getting a lot more than that, but let's just say she's taking a couple of percent points. Whew, man. Anyways, the National Drug Office guy is a fugitive out of the Eastern District of New York. Well, there you go. And then on or about 2003 to 2011, Diosdado, Cabello, Rondon. I think it's Cabello. I don't know. Eric is going to be cringing too. Occupied various positions in Venezuela. The Zetas worked with a group of Colombian drug traffickers to dispatch cargo containers on ships, carrying 5 to 6 tons of cocaine each, sometimes 20 tons of cocaine. That's a lot of cocaine, chat. That is a lot of fucking cocaine. Holy cow. Holy cow. Tens of thousands of kilograms of cocaine were sent by this group. I mean, just bricks on bricks on bricks. You could build the Great Wall of China with all them bricks. They talk about in between there, from 2004 to 2015, Maduro and his wife worked together to traffic cocaine using law enforcement and military escorts. During this time, they maintained their own groups of state-sponsored gangs known as colectivos to facilitate and protect their own stuff, their own hired goon squads, which is not abnormal. Oh, bricked up. Oh, bricked up like a boss. They also ordered kidnappings, beatings, and murders against those who owed them drug money or otherwise undermined their stuff, including the murder of a local drug boss in Caracas. And then in 2006, they dispatched more than 5.5 tons of cocaine to Mexico on a DC-9. Then the director of Venezuela's military intelligence, Hugo Armando Caraval Barrios, known as El Polo, means the chicken. I know that one too, chat. I know some Spanish lingo. Who pled guilty in this district to narco-terrorism. He worked to coordinate the shipment. The 5.5 tons were transported in approximately 5 vans to the hangar reserved for the Venezuelan president at Simón Bolívar International Airport in Venezuela. At the Maqueda Airport, the members of the Venezuelan National Guard loaded the cocaine. And they used a flight plan that was approved in exchange for bribes. And they say, despite the payment, the plane landed in Campeche, Mexico, and Mexican authorities seized more than 5.5 tons of cocaine. Shortly after the seizure, they told the Venezuelans they needed to pay a bribe to ensure those who assisted would not be arrested. Anyways, the traffickers paid $2.5 million at that point. And then this guy is also now a fugitive from the Eastern District of New York. I triggered the pronunciation, please. Sean, we need a Spanish course. I'm sorry. I know Cryptex is here too. I apologize for butchering your language. If it was French, I could probably do it. So they talk about 2006 to 8. Nino Guerrero. The two L's make the Y sound. I don't know. I'm trying. This man needs a Spanish class. Yes. At least I'm not talking about having a quesadilla. Go to escuela. So anyways, we're the one of the largest drug traffickers in Venezuela. Walid Macled. Yeah, that's a totally wholesome Venezuelan name right there, Walid. That's not sketchy at all. So they talk about protecting cocaine shipments that were sent from Venezuela from San Fernando de Apure, Venezuela, to Valencia, Venezuela. They were sent by plane from Valencia International Airport to Mexico. They also provided another major trafficker protection for cocaine shipments moving through Venezuela by providing armed men who carried, among other things, AKs, MP5s, and AR-15s. Yes, and they did all of this, and they sent stuff there. These guys were paid a per kilogram fee for cocaine that was transported. The Napoleon Dynamite reference is allowed. I have to try. They talk about Ramon Rodriguez Shaquin. The defendant, he had a large estate in Barinas, which contains a large FARC encampment and training school. He literally had a terrorist training camp on his fucking estate property that he owned. He owned property and he let terrorist groups build fucking camps on it. With over 200 FARC members on his property. These people are fucking evil. Just, wow. This is just ridiculous here. Then they talk about 2011, El Chapo financed cocaine laboratories in Colombia. And then, he did everything he could. They did an airstrip from Caraval Barrios, and that's where he received protection to these people here. Been there, done that. It's been a member for 20 months. He says, how many Rosetta Stone courses did I fail? All of them. All of them. And then they point out that in 2013, after Maduro became president, Venezuelan officials sent 1.3 tons of cocaine on a flight to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. French authorities seized the cocaine. Following the seizure, they convened a meeting, and during that, they determined that they should not have used From there, they're going to use other established drug routes and locations to send cocaine. So they're like, their plan wasn't, hey guys, we should stop trafficking drugs. It's, hey, we should be better at not getting caught trafficking drugs. So you're like, oh, I mean, hey, they're working on it. So what happened 2014 and 15? The National Guard on Margarita Island, which sounds kind of fun, coordinated hotels and visits for Venezuelan officials, including Maduro's son, who visited Margarita Island. He would arrive on a Falcon 9. It's a 9,000, not a 900. There's not a Falcon 900. I thought it was a 9,000. Oh, it is a Falcon 900 EX. Okay, yeah. I thought it was the Falcon 9000, but yes, the Dassault Falcon. Anyways, his luxurious private jet, owned by Venezuela's state oil company, PDVSA. Yes, if you guys remember Pastor Maldonado from Formula One fame, that was his main sponsor for his team, for Lotus. Before leaving the plane to be loaded, with large packages wrapped in tape, the captain understood were drugs. And on one occasion, stated the plane could go wherever it wanted to, including the United States. So they talk about in 2015, a couple of people related to Maduro agreed during recorded meetings with DEA snitches to dispatch multi-hundred kilogram shipments from Maduro to U.S. sources. They explained they're at war with the U.S., described the cartel of the Suns, and discussed a connection to somebody in FARC. Once again, they're out there just talking away.
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
You just when you're in the middle of your drug dealing, like, oh, hey, we're working with terror groups. It's like, that's the way you want to do it. You just sent me, there's another perp walk. Okay. Now from here, that just goes on and on and on. They're seeking to raise 20 million drug proceeds to support a campaign by Maduro's wife, for the election to the National Assembly. This guy referred to Maduro as his father, his Faja, his Poppy. Ay, Poppy. So they talk about 2017. The son worked to ship hundreds of kilograms of cocaine to Miami. He spoke with his drug trafficker partners about other things, shipping low-quality cocaine to New York. Chad, if you lived in New York and you're doing cocaine, he's sending you the shit that got stepped on. He's sending you some bum-ass cocaine up there in New York. Just get all stepped on, man. That's garbage. Because it couldn't be sold in Miami. Well, yeah, the people in Miami, they turn their nose up at that cocaine. No pun intended. So anyways, they would be unloaded from a cargo container in Miami, use scrap metal containers to get in New York. Anyways, the Shaheen made his trips to his estate where he had the FARC leaders like playing camp out games. These were a long history of regular meetings with FARC and ELN members and their encampments, and also at the house, because Maduro told this guy to provide them with protection and support. Literally support to motherfucking terrorist organizations, chat. Literally support to motherfucking terrorist organizations. Wow. Also, FARC leaders met Maduro at Miraflores, the presidential palace, as well as Fort Tiuna, which got leveled last night. The headquarters of the Venezuelan Defense Ministry. It got rocked. There's footage of some helicopters just shoo, just skadooshing rockets into them. And they say in 2019, FARC leaders had publicly returned to arms. And yes, those FARC leaders were welcomed to Venezuela. And then in 2019, Trendy Arugula's leader, Guerrero Flores, discussed drug trafficking with an individual he understood to be working with the Venezuelan regime. And he says over a bunch of these calls, they got escort pricing, that they TDA had control of the coastlines, TDA's base of operations, and Tocaron prison. TDA could handle the logistics. And they would use storage compartments called cradles on a beach. And TDA's ability to protect over 1 ton of cocaine. Maduro's son attended a meeting in Medellin, Colombia. Yes, chat, Medellin, where Pablo Escobar running around. Yes, that Medellin. With 2 representatives of FARC. During the meeting, they were talking about moving large quantities of cocaine and weapons through Colombia into the U.S. over the course of the next 6 years until or about 2026. He also discussed paying the FARC with weapons. So in 2007, the FARC got 4 crates of weapons, which included 20 grenades and 2 grenade launchers and some firepower they need. Then they talk about through 2022 to 2024. They went to clandestine airstrips controlled by the ELN near the border to ensure cocaine kept flowing. And by the end of 2024, they received the proceeds from this. And holy shit, guys. Holy shit. Uncivil Law. Kurt, how you doing, man? Guys, Kurt over at Uncivil Law says, only 1 ton. Man, that is just a weekend for me. Hope you're doing well, Kurt. Happy New Year, man. Happy New Year. Yes, Kurt's like, we did a magic trick, the cocaine. It's gone! All the guns, they're gone. Poof. Now, here is the allegations. Count 1, narco-terrorism conspiracy. Remember, chat, this is how once again, in furtherance, overt acts in furtherance of a conspiracy is how you do this. And they say from 1999 to 2025, they were involved in working with and conspired and confederated to violate Title 21 United States Code Section 960A. And notice we're not in Title 18, where normally things are. So 21 USC 960, what is that? Well, and that's where you get to things here. And this is where you get to Title 21, and this is importing and exporting, and it's food and drugs. So when you get to Title 21, you're like, well, what is it? Well, it's like food and drugs. Filled milk. What the fuck is filled milk? Is that when the milkers are filled up? But this is narcotic drugs. This is where you start just going through different things here, guys. And you could bring up what's going on here. Drug abuse prevention and control is where we start. And we got to get to 960, import and export. Okay, so what's 960? Prohibited acts. And you can see, prohibited acts, foreign terrorist organizations. When you're working with these groups, what is it? All right, well, what are the prohibited acts? Well, you can't intentionally import or export a controlled substance, and you can't bring those on a naval vessel or aircraft. And the penalties of this, if it's when it goes by weight, 1 kilogram, 5 kilogram of coca leaves, cocaine salts, ecgonine, and which is one of the derivatives, and any compound or mixture for la cocaína, anything with the cocaine base. And it just goes on and on and on here, guys. Look at all this shit you could do. Anything relating to a fentanyl substance. 1,000 kilograms or more of marijuana. And yes, the H is the weird way of spelling it, but it is a way. 50 grams or more of methamphetamine, which that's actually 50 grams of methamphetamine is not that much, man. You catch a lot of people around here catch 50 grams of methamphetamine. Like, I had a lot of clients get caught with a package like that. Methamphetamine or its salts. Guys, methamphetamine is a salt. And at this point here, The person committing the violations will be sentenced to a term of not less than 10 years and not more than life. So 10 to life. And if death or serious bodily injury results, not less than 20 years and not more than life. So this is serious. This is serioso. This is very serioso. Muy serioso. So what did these guys do? Well, they had, as a part of an object of the conspiracy, they engaged in conduct that would be punishable under 21 U.S.C. 841 if committed within the jurisdiction of the United States. The distribution and possession with the intent to distribute 5 kilograms of mixtures containing a detectable amount of cocaine. And the intending to provide something of pecuniary value to a person or organization that is engaged in terrorism and terrorist activity. Oh, man, this is, looking at 20 to life. 20 to life on all these counts. 5 kilograms, chat. Basically 11 pounds of cocaine. And if they've shipped tons of it, guess how many 11-pound chunks they can carve out of that. And they talk about the following organizations have been designated by the United States Secretary of State as FTOs pursuant to Section 219 of the Immigration and Naturalization Act. During these times relevant are the FARC-EP, Segunda Marquetalia, the ELN, Trendy Arugula, and the Sinaloa Cartel. CDN, also known as the Zetas. Whoa. Is that served concurrently or consecutively? I'm assuming it's consecutive. Although it's up to the court. There's no mandatory here, but I'm assuming these will be consecutive sentences. Count 2 talks about cocaine importation, which obviously, yes, they were importing cocaine in the United States. And they talk about the defendants, at least one of whom has been and will be first brought to and arrested in the Southern District of New York, not only conspired and confederated to violate Title 21, Chapter 13, Subchapter 2. So what did they do? They intentionally imported cocaine in the U.S. from a place outside thereof, a controlled substance being cocaine. And that they intended, knowing and having reasonable cause to believe these substances would be unlawfully imported in the U.S. and into waters within a distance of 12 miles of the coast of the United States. Those are our territorial waters, 12 miles. And they did this, and they knew about it. They did this on board an aircraft registered in the United States. They conspired to import in the U.S. and the customs of the U.S. They manufactured and distributed things. They, within a distance of 12 miles of the coast of the U.S., they manufactured, distributed, possessed, boarding an aircraft registered in the U.S. And it was 5 kilograms or more. There's so much here. These guys are so boned. So boned. Yes, Judge Boasberg's probably writing up something to get them returned immediately. Return their cocaine to them. Now, here's where it's a little sketchy. Possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Okay. So what happened here? Well, they're pointing out from the same time frame, these guys had machine guns, but it's like they're allowed to have machine guns in Venezuela. So what do? They knowingly used and carried firearms and further into their drug crimes. So that's how they're being charged with this. But it's like, but you're allowed to have guns everywhere else. It's not sue them there. Another conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. You're like, what? How does that work? So anyways, to further the controlled substance offense, they knowingly used and carried firearms to protect what they had. And then there's forfeiture allegations. So they want to forfeit anything, any and all property derived from or proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of all this drug work. They want to seize everything from these people. Everything they could find, and this has been signed by U.S. attorney. Now, a bunch of people are wondering, well, we did this before, right? And yes, like, what's the argument that, well, before we get to there, guys, I do want to show you just real quick. There are different people. So, Diosdado Caballo, Rondon, he has a $25 million bounty on his head. And then Vladimir Padrino Lopez, who's the Minister of Defense, he has a $25 million, or he has a $15 million bounty on his head. So if you happen to see him, chat tournament. Now, what is all this? We got to go back. Because going back to 1989, and no, I'm not talking about the Taylor Swift thing here. This is Manuel Noriega, the leader of Panama. Panama, Anyways, yes, Panama. Yes, that Panama. Well, in 1988, he got indicted for drug trafficking, which the CIA probably put him up to, but we're not talking. We're not here to point fingers. We're not here to point fingers, chat. He refused, and over the course of months into 1989 and the 90, yes, totally not another CIA asset. No. The U.S. military had to go in and seize Manuel Noriega and arrest him in what was known as Operation Just Cause. If you guys remember, Just Cause was in Panama. This is where famously where he held up inside the presidential palace, and because he refused to come out, the at that point he refused to come out, so they played heavy metal music on full blast to go after him and to get him out. So they played different songs, but they played like Black Sabbath, they played Guns N' Roses, they played some Metallica, and on the big PSYOP speakers that they had, because remember, Panama had a heavy U.S. military influence up until the end of the Cold War. And they blasted it out and they drove him out because it was too damn loud. And then eventually, just like the pictures of Maduro, Manuel Noriega was arrested by the DEA. Yes, yes. They blasted that Iron Maiden, baby, as well. They also played Van Halen. They played a lot of stuff. So, but anyways, this is Noriega. He got arrested. And Noriega went to prison, and Noriega died in prison. Now, Noriega made a bunch of arguments, and they're arguments that Maduro is likely going to raise, and a bunch of people have messaged me and asked me about these, and I told them we'll get to them because I think that if you don't understand them, it's okay, and we want to go through them. But real quick, I do think it's important to know we have breaking news. The new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, did speak and told us how he feels about this.
I was briefed by my first deputy mayor, my chief of staff, my chief counsel, the police commissioner, as well as other members of my team. I called the president and spoke with him directly to register my opposition to this act and to make clear that it was an opposition based on being opposed to...
Chetty's opposed! He's opposed! He's a communist! He's opposed! He says he's strongly opposed.
A pursuit of regime change, to the violation of federal and international law, and a desire to see that be consistent each and every day.
Suffer, commie, suffer. Now, I will point out here, and this is something that needs to be addressed, chat. This is all nonsense, because at the end of the day, this idea about international law, and this is something you learn very early on when it comes to international law. International law is not really built on much. And you need to understand that pretty damn quickly here, because international law is anarchy. The international system is anarchy. There's nobody in charge. There's nothing going on. there is nothing to stop stuff from happening in the international circuit. You know how things happen on the international circuit and get stopped? Because somebody, big enough stops the guy doing the thing that they don't like. But this idea of, it's people do as they wish. You may not like it, but those are the worlds we live in. And there is a thing I posted, which I thought was very correct and apropos for people to understand. It's this. There is no rules-based international order. International law is fake. No supranational bodies have any authority over the United States. At the state level, there is anarchy. Only interests matter, and it's very true. It is very, very, very true. Very true at this point. So, what's wrong, chat? Who's doing what? What's going on, chat? Hold on. What's going on now? Yes. Do not regime change, sir. Bernie, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you strongly opposed to getting some bitches? I don't need bitches. I've got a beautiful woman. I don't need no hoes in different area codes. It's a base sign. I agree. I think it's a very base sign. Also, here's another picture of Maduro sitting on the airplane. He's just like, ay. He's like, oh no. Which, yes, have fun with that again. And I wish I could find the meme I saw last night that was hilarious, and I don't understand it. But it was one by watching it you could just laugh at. Where is the staying alive guy? It's some weird Spanish guy, I think, who's oh yeah, here is the picture of Maduro in custody from the DEA agents. I don't know if this is like one of their fast teams or what it is, but here's a picture somebody shot of Maduro. And obviously, look, it's kind of like Noriega, Maduro. Noriega, Maduro. It's like Noriega, Maduro. It's very fun. Isn't it kind of funny, chat? Isn't it weird? How that works. It does not truly show you how. Where is? Oh, come on. There's got to be another. I wish I could find it. Chat, but it's some guy who it's like when they thought all the Venezuelan leaders were dead, and some guy was playing Staying Alive to a clip of some looks like a reality TV star down that way. I don't really know, but it was pretty funny. I wish I could find it, but it's gone. It's gone forever, chat, like tears in the sun. And what are we doing here? All right. Well, we need to move on to Noriega because Noriega was charged and convicted. Noriega went ahead and filed an appeal. And his appeal was heard, and it was out of the 11th Circuit because he was tried down in Florida. Now, we're not going to go through the entire case. We're going to kind of skip down to the parts he raises because he raises a bunch of claims. He raises a bunch of claims on how this should work here. But he cites a bunch of claims that he argues that he is the head of a state, therefore he should have not been able to have been brought. He also argues one of the biggest things is that he was basically abducted and brought to the United States unlawfully. And we have to then discuss, well, how does this all work? So we kind of start with that. Now, here's where things go from Noriega. And the first thing he talks about is head of state immunity. And he argues that, hey, I am the head of a country. You can't do anything to me. So he argues head of state immunity because he's the de facto, if not the de jure leader of Panama. Well, what happened? Well, he lost that claim because the U.S. government never recognized him as a legitimate constitutional ruler. Even then, even if you are the leader of a country, you could still break the law in America. And they point out, they go back through different cases here of jurisdiction and how the court looks at things, going back through 1812, the Schooner Exchange versus McFadden. And they point out that the U.S. can agree to accept certain limitations on individual territorial jurisdiction. They also could say one of those is the exemption of the person who's sovereign from arrest or detention within a foreign territory. Well, here's the problem here, and the court got through all of this. There's also the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, which is a set of standards that give governing claims of immunity when you're suing a foreign party or a foreign government, which is true if you try to sue a foreign government in the United States. The Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act rears its ugly head, and you may have to deal with it. Now, this is the interesting thing, because when it's talking about head of state immunity, it's not presidential immunity, but there's three baskets for it. There's explicit immunity, there's expressly declined to suggest immunity, or we don't know. And it all becomes the executive branch's position on it. Well, how does this work? Well, here's the point. Here's the thing. The executive branch has said that by pursuing his capture and prosecution, the executive branch has made it clear that Noriega should be denied head of state immunity. And it's very, it's intuitive. The court saying, hey, look, they came after you. Therefore, obviously, they don't want you to deal with this. Like, it's very clear what's going on. It's very clear how we're handling this. So ultimately, they say that the records indicate Noriega never served as the leader of Panama constitutionally, and Panama did not seek immunity for Noriega, and the charged acts relate to his private pursuit of personal enrichment. And the same thing here for Maduro. He was making money on the side and making money at the cost of his people and his country. So these are acts he committed as a private person. So ultimately, they find no error in denying that claim. Now, here's the other one. He claims that his conviction should be reversed because he was brought to the U.S. in violation of the treaty for the extradition of criminals between the U.S. and the Republic of Panama, which is from 1904. And they say in here, the court, the Supreme Court's already dealt with this, and they say, when a criminal defendant has been abducted to the U.S. from a nation which has an extradition treaty, you acquire a defense to the jurisdiction of this country's courts. And the court says, actually, no, and you may be tried in a federal court for violations of the criminal law of the United States. So as long as you're drugged into court, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter if there's an extradition treaty. If you get brought back, that's it. So, for example, if you guys remember Dog the Bounty Hunter, he went after Andrew Luster, who was the heir to the Max Factor makeup empire, and he had warrants for his arrest. He was a fugitive for sexually assaulting women, and he fled to Mexico. Well, Dog the Bounty Hunter tried to bring him back, and as long as you get him back into the United States, and this is how it will work. If you were on the run and somebody goes and grabs you, so for example, you get accused of burglary and you run away, and the guy who you burgled his house, the homeowner, is, let's say he's a Green Beret. He goes to Mexico, finds you, kidnaps you, and drags you back across the border and turns you over to the police. That's legal. That is legal. So they point out that did the treaty expressly bar abductions? And they say that neither contacting party shall be bound to deliver up its own nationals. They say it doesn't really say how this works. And they also point out that even though you have an extradition treaty, you didn't agree to seek out custody of people via only extradition. You can get people however you want. however you can get them. And they say to do this extradition treaty claim, you must demonstrate the express language of a treaty and the practice thereafter. That the U.S. affirmatively agreed not to seize foreign nationals from the territory of its treaty partner. Well, guess what? We don't have an extradition treaty with Venezuela. So you lose again, Maduro. You're going to lose again. He also sought dismissal because it was so unconscionable. It was a violation of substantive due process. But yeah, it doesn't matter. The due process claim is that you're not allowed to defeat personal jurisdiction by asserting the illegality of your procured presence. And he's saying, I still shouldn't be here. And the court has backed this up a bunch of times. And that the power of a court's not impaired by the fact that he had been brought to the court's jurisdiction by forcible abduction. Meaning, if you get dragged into court, it doesn't matter. It's not our problem. Now, it doesn't matter. Also, even if Panamanian civilians were hurt during the armed conflict, and some Venezuelans would have died, that does not support a due process claim here. You know, the conduct towards third parties is so outrageous, it's outside of it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So they just say it doesn't work here. You cannot do this. So, dismissing the indictment pursuant to due process or its supervisory powers, nope, it's going to lose. It's going to lose. Those were the biggest things that he did. Now, in his case, this is where it gets funny, chat. This guys, please behave out there. If you guys calm down, guys, please. Can we all just chill? Can we all just chill? If you guys need to ice down your titties for a minute, go ice down your titties. They point out that Noriega wanted to give notice of his intent to use his classified information regarding his intelligence work for the United States to rebut the assertion he had unexplained wealth. So yes, he was going to say, I'm going to show you why I was a spy. And guess what the government said? No, you can't do that. The government objected. And in pretrial proceedings, the government offered to stipulate that Noriega had received $300,000 from the Army and the CIA. Noriega insisted the actual figure was $10 million, and he should be allowed to disclose the task that he had performed. Now, the district court said all of that was irrelevant to his defense, and it said the tendency of that evidence could confuse the jury. The district court's ruling left Noriega free to present evidence of the fact, amounts, time, source, and method of conveyance of money he had received from the United States. So he could still show all the other stuff he's doing here. And then at trial, Noriega declined to submit evidence for all this. So ultimately, Noriega tried to appeal a bunch of stuff here, but it didn't work for him. It didn't work. So ultimately, it's kind of Noriega's problem here. So they say that ultimately it determined, all of this. So yeah, we can't conclude the district court abuses discretion about that. His second error would be that he wanted to present testimony of somebody who would deny that Noriega trafficked drugs. And he was denied that opportunity. And then ultimately, the district court erred when it allowed the government to cross-examine him about an incident where he protected Noriega from a coup. And they held that was relevant to show the loyalty and bias in favor of Noriega, and the court agrees. You're allowed to impeach somebody for their credibility, for their bias. Now, those are the big problems here, and they say the district court's handling of it was not an abuse of discretion. Now, as far as the rest of things that happened for Noriega, they're like, nope, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And Noriega's done. As you can see, the rest of this here doesn't really matter at this point. So Noriega's judgment was confirmed. And yeah, that's what happened. That's the saga of Manuel Noriega here. He ended up dying in prison, and yeah. It's which it's rough. It's rough. He's gone. And he died in prison, and that was how that went. How that went, chat. And it's oh, where is this thing? I don't know if you guys have seen it before. I'm trying to find it. Somebody messaged me and it's like, no, this is not the thing I'm looking for. But we do have some other things here sent in. There is more footage of his perp walk that we could take a look at here. This is very interesting. This is the Maduro at the Metropolitan here in Manhattan, and then this is him walking off the airplane. That is chanclas on, chat. So, anyways, this is him. Just you get to see it. He's making his way downtown, walking fast, faces fast, and it's homebound. Da 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 da. Bum 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 bum. He got indicted. Bum 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 bum. For lots of cocaine. Bum 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 bum. And now he's going to prison. So there he goes, chat. There he goes. As he goes walking on by, as he goes on by there, you're just like, well, what's going to happen to him? Like, I don't know. I don't think he's going to like it wherever he goes. But he will be a guest of the government down in probably in Florence, the Supermax. At the Supermax in Florence, which so odds on Pam Bondi fucking this all up. I don't know, but actually here's the no, this isn't high quality, but there's no high quality of this thing of Maduro walking around, which sucks. But hey, say la vie. Say la vie. Realistically, what sort of treatment does he get in detainment? I mean, he's going to get cared for and stuff, but there's not a whole lot that's going to happen to him. So, and then when he's in prison, I mean, like, he'll get health care and all that, but it's, there's not a whole lot that's going to happen here. I just, I don't know what people think was going to happen to him, but it's, so that's a very good question, me, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to this. As far as where is that? Well, damn it, I can't find it. So, oh, hold on, chat, 1 second. All right, guys. So yeah, let's get into the super chats here and kind of get into what we've got left to get through. I mean, there's but anyways, let's get to these here. BobTube for $2. He says, $2 Australian dollary doodles. He says, N. Apparently, we need the letter N today. So we've got the letter N. It's brought to you by the letter N, chat, I guess. Eric Rodriguez. Erico Rodriguez. Eric Rodriguez. I read that wrong. Trump imported 2 Venezuelan illegals. Yes, he did. Erica Thorpe for $1.99 says I. Amateur Iconoclast for $2 says G. Spud Gun for £2 sterling. The King Sterling says G. Adam for $2 says finally my kind of music. Yes. John Coleman for $2 says E. And by the way, chat, if you guys are new, my name's Sean. Also is potentially criminal. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and I do a lot of criminal defense stuff, obviously the name of this channel. But we cover all kinds of legal stuff, and we had other legal stuff planned for tonight to go through. We were going to go through some of the Jack Smith deposition that he gave to the House Oversight Committee, but obviously a big legal issue came up, like how do you prosecute the leader of another country like this, and why was he arrested and not just captured, and it's not a war? Well, we've done this before, and that's why we kind of went through it. So if you guys are new and you like it, please give me a like or give me a subscribe. I would appreciate it. And John Coleman says, please tell me there will still be Venezuelan men on Chatterbait after this. I need those videos better than OnlyFans. I mean, maybe. I don't know. You'll have to go look. That's all you, man. Debbie O says, thank you for staying up thanks for the arrest stream last night. So we're staying up all night to watch. Yeah, that was a lot of fun last night. It was a lot of fun. Thank God Trump did that on a Friday night, not a Saturday night. Jelly Jerome for £5 sterling. The King Sterling says, who sold Venezuela their anti-air? Feels like it came off Matilda Wormwood's vet and cousin. Russia and Iran have sold, they sold like S-300s and SA-11s to Venezuela. But remember, they're being run by Venezuelans. So, yeah. John Coleman says, I'm done making you flinch. The spider pick is gone. Thank you. I appreciate that. And there's a kitty cat. Aw. It's a cute little kitty. Yes, James Reed, we now have the Dunroe Doctrine. Cryptex for $2.79 Canadian. That's almost 3 loonies or 1.5 toonies. And he says, rotten prison, Maduro. Based. And then 6 Art says, either Sean is racist or his chat is Mexican. Probably it's a little bit of both. Robert Lawrence for 5 subs. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it for your support. John Coleman says, will this guy and Luigi be blanket buddies? That would be hilarious. Roosevelt Media News says, I thought, for $5, I thought I could not be any more disgusted with Trump, but here we are. Outrageous. I'm worried. I'm worried how this is going to turn out. I'm worried what's going to happen from here. But if they can do this and not screw it up, great. But we'll see. You know, the jury's out still. Fark the Ranger says, let's hope we can get you on the Unsubscribed podcast sooner than later. You'd fit in great. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Check in with Legal Dick Sucker. Can Maduro's wife just plead, I'm just a girl? No, I mean, she was clearly involved. Yeah, but no, Legal Mindset's doing okay. He's getting, he's working through what he's got going on, but he's addressing it, which is always the biggest thing. Thank you for super chat, by the way. Cheesehead lost on Bourbon Street. That's a big name. For $5. Thank you. Is saying, has anyone heard anything of the 3 U.S. service members who were jailed in Venezuela with the last overthrow attempt in 2020? Well, they weren't service members. They were veterans. I don't think they were current service members. But I assume something will be worked out with those guys. But yeah, those were definitely glowies. So we'll see. We'll see. Chugi Show says for 490, well, the U.S. is back in action with nation building. Are we having fun yet? So much winning. Like I said, when it comes to the Monroe Doctrine and us defending our hemisphere, I'm a little more willing to do that because we need to protect our backyard. Territory says, do I think that Nick will ask his probation officer to go to Venezuela? Maybe. John Coleman for $2 says, Safa, Nick. LJ for $9.99. He says, we're protecting Kuwait, not chasing oil. Yes. H.W. Bush. And we're bringing freedom to Iraq. We don't need oil. George W. Bush. And then, yes, we're invading Venezuela for the oil. They stole our oil, Trump. At least we're not lying about it anymore. It's all about resources. Keep them resources. BobTube for $5 Australian dude says, man, I just want to complain about commie dictators, but never do anything about them. Orange man bad. Well, there's that too. And it's funny. It's funny watching the, especially the pro-Ukraine crowd cry about this because they're just upset we're not using our military might to help them. But yes, somehow taking out one of Putin's staunchest allies is bad. Once again, the Ukrainian people are theater kids. Ukrainian supporters are theater kids. Radcon Hazard says, as much as I'm trying to pay attention, I'm just wiped. We'll catch the VOD night all and happy memeing. Well, good night, Radcon. Good night. Blade 2.0, chat. And remember, if you're looking for a Blade, but you need a little extra out of it, Blade 2.0. It's a new and improved Blade. Says for $5, do we an update on the New Mexico judge arrested for housing a Venezuelan gang member? No. Think he'll enjoy hearing this? No. I don't have an update on either one. John Coleman says the finest skooma, the sweetest moon sugar at a fair price, of course. Jefferson Poe says the machine gun charges are lame, gay, and against the Second Amendment. Yeah, and I think they're going to try to do stuff there. But remember, the drug ones are the bigger issue. You're looking at 20 to life. I'm assuming they've got bigger fish to fry here. So, but good, fair point. Unhung Hero for 10 subs. Let's go, chat. Big frickin' support tonight. You know, we get an awoo for that. We get an awoo from Clyde for that one. A test channel. Wow. Is a new member. Thank you. Re-upping. Sportmaster. Been a member for 2 months. Says, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Yes. Yes, we did. Unhung Hero says, oh, I'm going to come. Sar. BobTube for $5 dues says, Sean's Jannies are babies. We must stop the Japanese sand degenerates next. I agree. The scoopers cannot be allowed to run free. Jefferson Post says, how many of these dictators style after Stalin? Especially the, socialist ones, a lot. Jefferson Post says, sovereign immunity is limited on us, not the feds. True. But I can see the argument to make that, if you say I'm off limits, I'm off limits. BobTube says that my mods are turning into Kurt mods. Well, we'll figure something out. If I got to go in and we got to pamper tamp and, pamper tample, tamper pamps. Unhung Hero for $5 says the mods start turning into Nick's mods. We're screwed. And then Shredder S 07 for 10 subs. Gets another awoo, chat. Another awoo. Stabby's been a member for 31 months. Oh, time flies. Says, my nips are burning, Sean. Oh, yes. BobTube for $5 Australian says, the mods will ban anyone being homophobic or sandphobic in chat. That's the same thing. You know, being afraid of the sand, being a sandphobe, but it's okay to be a sandphobe. They don't deserve your sympathy. They don't deserve your respect. Scoopers are evil people. They're not even human. Unhung Hero says bringing Maduro here makes it much easier to make him wear the carcinogen pants. Debbie says he was indicted in the Southern District of New York, so he'll be tried in the SDNY unless there's a venue change. I mean, yes, but he's going to have to prove that he can't get a fair trial in the SDNY, and it's like you're probably like you remember it's pretty much impossible to get. If like these cases, even with the January 6th people getting like statistics and surveys and things done, nobody got a new place. It's almost impossible to get a change of venue nowadays. Like Brian Koberger was the only one who it actually worked out for. But those are the only like there's no circumstances he's probably going to get it. And Debbie says, reminder to tell everyone why this won't be a military tribunal. It's because he's being charged as a private citizen. He's being charged as a man running a drug trafficking empire. And I hope that makes sense here. Like he's being charged as Nicolas Maduro. He just happened to be the president of Venezuela. But we also weren't at war last night. So there's no military issues here. Courier Jackalope for $5. Thank you for being here. Thank you. It says jail bikini time. Yes, for him it will be jail bikini time. Taylor TC has been a member of 13 months. Says, you know who else had a Falcon 900EX? I'm pretty sure I do. I don't know if I want to know for sure. Nico's been a member for 26 months. Says, good stuff, Sean. Great to see you on Future Conflict. Yeah, that was fun hanging out with Scott and Watcher. I know they had a better show earlier today. Amateur Iconoclast for $2 says, Sean's proficiency in Spanish is El Bago in El Caro. Yes, it is. Yes. And then EDW Raptor for $5 says, I literally just got here and I hear all this mod hate. It couldn't have been me. I wasn't here. Also, can you start over? No. Not starting over. Let's see here. Yes, he's a former illegitimate president of Venezuela. Well, there's that too. But once again, he's also just a dude. We're going after him for being just a dude. Also, what the hell's going on here, chat? I'm trying to catch up. What the hell's going on? Oh, hold on. What's this link here? All right. We don't need to worry about that. Oh, I lost a StreamYard click for a second. You'll never pray my gray away. Well, don't worry. We'll try. I was hoping we get to see him in Admiralty Court. No, you will not. You will not get to see that. You will not be that lucky. Karate Werewolf says, give him for 2 months. Given the chance, would you represent Maduro? I mean, yeah, that'd be kind of fun. You'd be able to fuck around with the government for a little while, but ultimately they're probably going to convict them. But yeah, sure. I mean, like, it's not like you're going to get... And hold on one more second, chat. I mean, it's not like... Yeah. It's not like you're gonna... I mean, it's not like anything's gonna happen to you. So yeah, I think it'd be fun. Although he's probably gonna sit there and like try to talk to me about Bolivarian socialism. And I'm gonna be like, look, shut the fuck up. Let's keep you out of prison, dude. I don't care. Socialism's gay. I'm sure he'd get mad. Fred Rush has been a member for 16 months. Thank you, Fred, for being here. It says, it's the era of the Don Rowe doctrine. Yes. And I don't have a problem with this being an enforcement of the Monroe Doctrine. I just, like I said, I'm just worried because the government, the government's, just done banger after banger the past 25 years. So if they get this right, I'm all for it. And remember, Iran turned out to be okay. So let's just, fingers crossed, chat, fingers crossed. Lone Star Medic, who's been a member for 12 months, says, I'm so happy to be called a fag in Discord. Well, there you go. I'm glad you're there. And then Jefferson Poe says, oh my God, imagine Maduro goes full sovereign citizen in court. That would be hilarious. That would be muy hilarioso. Or mucho hilarioso, as my people would say. And then Courier Jackalope again for $5. Thank you, by the way. Saying if all else fails, will they get him on his taxes like Capone? No, because he didn't make money inside the United States. So no, that wouldn't work that way. No. But it's a good idea. It's a good thought. Good thought. And then EDW Raptor for wide sub. See, unlike Meme Copium, you get one sub. You get one sub here. You get it. You get the emotion behind it. Yes, he is literally a sovereign citizen. I mean, technically, kind of, he is a sovereign citizen. He's like, I am president of Venezuela. Says who? Me. Like, fair enough. Fair enough. Bush says, I learned Spanish from Peggy Hill. At times it feels like it. Did any of the flags on the USS Iwo Jima have gold fringe? Presumably, if it's a naval ship, yes, there would have been gold fringe flags on board. I would assume so. I would hope so. If I was given the chance to represent Maduro, would you guys have to switch sides? I don't know. There's a bonbon here flying around. It was a bomb. Again, pretty sure it's a bonbon here because it's too short to be Clyde, or too long to be Clyde here. And too long to be a Laney here. Let's see here. He should proceed pro se. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. And then Gary Meyer says, watch, I would actually win. That would be so hilarious. I'd better get compensated well for that by him. Pay me with some of his hidden bank accounts somewhere. Unforced Ego for $20. Thank you. He says, I just got here, about to rewind to the beginning. Assuming we don't put a bunch of people in country and try to nation build, I'm in favor of this. Me too. But once again, fingers crossed. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Russell Greer needs to represent him. And then CAG theism, which is kind of very appropriate given your CAG was involved in the op last night. But America 14 months says the Trump doctrine is obey, it will take up your president and dip. Yes. Yes. They all woke up in the morning like, where's the boss? Oh, he's gone. Why is all our shit on fire? Well, about that. Can Maduro be labeled a foreign agent? No. If you're thinking of FARA, Manic Cancer, no. FARA is you're doing like you're doing work in America or in the American like economy or into America on behalf of a foreign government. So he's not a foreign agent like that. If that's what that's what a foreign agent means. Generally under U.S. law, you're a foreign agent under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, meaning you're doing the bidding of the Venezuelan government. So, for example, if every day you came on here and I was talking about like, hey, today in Venezuela, here's what happened, and I'm getting paid by the Maduro regime, I would have to declare. It's the same reason why some people get charged with that is they're doing basically propaganda work. But that's not a bad question. Not a bad question. Thank you for asking. Unknown Hero says for $2, Maduro's going to go objection. Grounds. Grounds. And then LJ says Maduro is a bus driver before becoming president. T-Bomb says, repeat question. Can I get in for selling it without a license? For selling without a license? What are you selling without a license? I don't know what you're selling. That's going to be a little bit of an issue. Iran is not fine. Yes, Iran is burning and it looks like they're running out of water. Any news of the Tony Busby lawsuits? No, I have not been checked. I need to check on those. Meme Copium says lunch for wontons. And then let's say poor man 1776 says imagine Maduro got Nick Requeta as his lawyer. Funny. Nice to see. I need to see Maduro hiding behind Fort Grounds. Well, you can have Grok. He'll help you out with that. He can help you do it. El Degusto says, is it true you only receive the gift subs if you're on the computer rather than on the phone? I think you can still get them when you're on the phone. Hold on, what? Yeah, 2.0 gets all those all the time. Yeah, you can be on the phone and get one. I don't think that's the issue. There's like brand accounts, and then every once in a while, if you're on an iPhone, things get goofy. But no, overall, you should be able to get them. Zakuza says handing Venezuela over to the oil companies. Yeah, that's already happened though, because Maduro already tried to entice oil companies to come in. Also, keep in mind the oil in Venezuela is like what's in Canada. It's like oil sands, and it's not the best quality oil. So, it's not anything special. Maduro was an Amazon package. Jefferson Post says the jury comes back not. It's like, we had the jury find the defendant not guilty, and I go, fuck. It's like, damn it, I was too good. Actually, I'd be more like, that's right. That's right. That's totally what it would be. Ploxer says, Farrah works with NGOs and lobbyists. Technically, if I started doing stuff, I could be a FARA registration person. A lot of these YouTube channels where there's like US citizens who are shilling for the Ukrainian government, and it's clear they've probably taken money for the Ukrainian government, technically need to register under FARA. A lot of people could be under FARA. Typically, it's NGOs and lobbyists, but you can become FARA subject at some point. It's very easy to get FARA. Like, I think Hassan Piker might have to be FARA registered after he went to China. I really do. Ag says, what's needed by an attorney to represent someone internationally? You would have to be able to be, that country would have to accept you. So, for example, if, let's say, you were in Honduras and you called me up and said, hey, Sean, can you come down and represent me? As long as I could qualify in Honduras as an attorney, and maybe they just wave me in and say, yeah, you're good enough, don't worry about it, then I'm in. Practicing internationally, though, a lot of attorneys, as far as like international practice, a lot of it's transactional. It's not litigation. And then for the times where there's litigation involved, there are international courts and organizations that they generally accept you if you're licensed and in good standing. But for a lot of things where like attorneys will work internationally, it's a lot of, more office work or negotiation stuff than anything. Let's see here. Yes, Stacy, Los Grounds. Which trial will be first, Robinson or Maduro? I don't know. Yes, Motion del Frankso. T-Bomb says, can they text him for selling without a license or charge him for selling without a license? No, because you can't get a license to import cocaine into America, so I don't think that works anyway. I don't think that's going to work. Didn't the Afghans cut off Iran's water? No, Iran's actually been going through a massive drought, and they never really planned for it properly. Let's see here. Meme says there's only one way to test it. Said more subs. That's right, chat. That's right. Yes. You can get them on the phone, but you have to allow them on PC. Oh, yes. Yes, they already had oil contracts and they reneged on them. But recently, Maduro brought people back because Chavez had nationalized the oil previously. Let's see. Here is Tim Cass allegedly took money from Russia, right? Well, he took money from Lauren Chen, who was being funded by the Kremlin. But yes, yeah. But Tim Pool probably could get away with claiming he didn't realize what the money came from. Lauren Chen should have been operating under FARA, and the fact she didn't get indicted for that is truly the only reason why she probably didn't get indicted is because Lauren Chen probably fucking dropped a dime on everybody. All the Russians she was working with, she snitched them all out. So, and I'm surprised she didn't get in trouble for the Canadian version of FARA, given how much they have a hate boner over Russia up there. So, let's see here. Tim Pool got Blair White pregnant. Meme says, when no Chinese right-wing Canadian feeds me Russian money. Yeah, there's no fucking way on that. Unknown Hero says Maduro for $5. Maduro may actually have enough snow to make Nick want to be a lawyer again. Jeez. Bella says Iran is one dam break away from a catastrophe. Well, their actually bigger problem is just they're running out of water. They're having a massive problem. Well, is Iran gonna have a revolution? Maybe, but it also may just have breakaway issues. Guys, keep in mind 40% of Iran's it's 20% of Iran's population is Azeri, like Azerbaijan. They are ethnic Azeris up in the northwest corner, like along the Aras River Valley. There's a lot of things that'll happen there where Iran can get carved up. And that's probably a bigger threat. Then you got the, things with like Baluchistan over in the eastern part, they could break away. So there's a bigger issue of Iran disintegrating versus a revolution. Like a revolution is big, but they could also disintegrate. The legal jokes from the sector are endless, don't they? Yes. Would a super PAC need to be FARA registered? They would have to be if they're doing work on behalf of a foreign government. And foreign money in a super PAC, ooh, man, that's I don't know about that. I think it's legal, but that would make my that would get your feet sweating a little bit. That's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy. That's a good question, though. Isn't his bank account frozen? How would he pay for a lawyer? I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how that'll work. How does Coca-Cola import coca leaves? Well, there is medicinal cocaine that you can get in the country. But overall, I mean, does Coca-Cola still use coca leaves? Oh, they still do. Okay. So what do they do is, here you go. So Coca-Cola imports the leaves, but they have a company they use which extracts the cocaine, and the decocainized extract is sent to Coca-Cola for flavoring. So yeah, they still do it because a medical company takes the cocaine out. And cocaine is actually a medicinal drug. It's an analgesic. It's a topical one. It will, because like kind of like the jokes, taking a number. Yeah, it works. It works as it does. Plus the current, there's all kinds of like everybody's gonna carve a piece off of Iran's ass. That's the problem. Everyone's gonna carve up Iran. So this is don't need to know where I live, chat. But yeah, here's Iran, guys. I mean, everybody's going to want to carve off a little bit of Iran here. The Azeris, this is like along the Aras River Valley right here. Here's also the Zangezur corridor, that Armenia, that whole thing there, the land bridge that they want to probably get together. Because remember, this is Azerbaijan, and then this little chunk here is Azerbaijan as well, separated by Armenia. So they're going to want to connect that. But anyway, yeah, Azerbaijan's going to want their, they'll want their piece. Turkey's going to probably come take their piece, because if they don't, the Kurds will try to take their piece. And they're not going to want that. They're not going to want that. The Turks and the Kurds will fight each other. The Turkmen from Turkmenistan, they're probably going to want a little bit of land. The Afghans, I could see them taking a little bit. And then you got this massive problem down here in Baluchistan, basically. This whole region going independent. So there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues there about how this actually would break down and how this would work. But yes, there's a lot of problems for Tehran. There's a lot of problems for Tehran going forward. Let's see here. Geography minor Sean, a little bit. I used to watch Warlord Carmen Sandiego. Kathy, your realtor in New Jersey, for $10. Good to see you, Kathy. Says, hi, sorry, just got here. Is this for oil? Is this to freak other countries out? It's to protect natural resources in Venezuela. This was also to tell the rest of the world to stay the fuck out of the Western Hemisphere. Multiple reasons this was done. And we did it flawlessly. We went in and snatched up the guy without suffering a single casualty, not even a wounded guy, which that's going to really put everybody on notice that, we're here to fuck. And, that's something they have to be careful about. Oh, why did my camera go off? Jeez. Let's see here. Derna says Pakistan would help Iran put down a Baluch uprising. Almost a third of their country is Baluchistan. Here's the problem: is Pakistan able to successfully do that if they end up with some sort of Takfiri Salafist uprising on top of that? If the tribal regions go ape shit, and then if Afghanistan and Pakistan start fighting, like, there's a lot of ways this can break down. So, let's see here. Yes, Coke brand Coke. Yes, cocaine brand Coke. Let's see here. Turkey with Kurds, yes. I played the Carmen Sandiego games, got pretty decent with the world flags. I know, I like that show. I tried to get on that as a kid. Couldn't get on, which was a shame. And remember that at the time when World Carmen Sandiego was on, that was the cold night, like 1990. And the world kept changing for the first couple of years after the war, after the Cold War ended. So these kids, like, the world could change from when they were on TV and recorded the show, like, boundaries and names and nations would appear and dissolve. So, yeah, we knuck and buck, says Mavka. Yes. Jefferson Post says, is Iran one of the last post-World War I formed countries? No, Iran, like, in Persia, like, has, it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. If the tribal regions go ape shit like they always do, yes, and that's true. Let's see. Yes, Pakistan is a big portmanteau of all the countries they're made up of. Yes. Yes, Trump warned Cuba today, based. I want to go to Cuba. Super Beautiful Noise says too much learning. Oh. That a cappella song, yes. The FBI can never catch Carmen. I know, it's why Acme had to do it. Nowadays, though, you know what would have happened? Carmen Sandiego would have got drone striked. Or they would have sent out like the CIA would have sent out Special Activities Division to kill her. Oh. Dr. Dismaduro says, when is the quartering going to post my bail? I don't know. You want legal Cuban cigars? I just want to be able to go to Cuba unrestricted. Like, I know right now, but like, I want it to be cheap. Like, before there was Florida was just like a bunch of hillbillies in the swamp. If the Cubans never had the revolution, the way we see Florida right now is where Cuba would be. Everybody would be retiring in Cuba because Cuba's so much better than Florida for climate and everything. So that's the thing I want for Cuba. Yes, welcome to the Leering Center. Carmen was a CIA asset. Yeah, probably. Stacy says, you used to be able to go. I know, but I want it better. Like, I want it to be actually good. Yes, Cuba is full of Canadians on vacation, but eventually, if Americans show up there, we'll run the Canadians out. All right, chat. So that is it for us tonight. We're all caught up. We are all caught up. Thank you guys all for being here. Hold on. Whoa. Erroneous Nomius says, do you think it's true Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds in August of this year? Is there a joke about me being fat in this? Or, like, what are you talking about? What? Yes, I just want to be able to eat a Big Mac in Havana. Well, hey, telling me you wouldn't. That's the ultimate example of colonial and consumerism taking over. Shoving a Big Mac in my face. What is this? Okay, hold on here. This, okay, so they said that Earth on August 20th, Earth completed its rotation 1.5 milliseconds earlier than expected. So that's what you're thinking of with the stuff there. LJ says, I can't bullshit you, Sean. I'm retarded. Once we remove Hyman Roth from Cuba, we'll be great again. Yeah, but you know that. That's, Hyman Roth made Cuba what it was. If the magnetic poles flip, we all get cancer and die because of no protection from solar winds. Yeah, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Also, we die in the meantime from everything falling apart from the poles flipping. Pixel Reina says, oh, I always get here at the end. Well, I'm sorry about that, but there'll be other days. Let's see. Making sure I got everything else. Go all night, Sean. Reach 27K. Well, no. And am I wearing pants? You're gonna have to pay to find out, and you don't have enough money in your wallet. All right, chat. So that said, yeah, we're gonna pack it up here. Flash asked if I'd come on tonight, so we could dab on the commies out there. He actually sent me a link like hours ago, which is not always how Flash does it, but he sent me a link like hours upon hours upon hours ago. So guys, I will be there. Not at 10:45 or whenever he actually starts. But we will be out there. If you guys want to help make the commies suffer, that's where we're gonna go. I know, like I said, Flash asked, so I'm gonna do it. I am wearing heart boxers. Well, did you ask your mom? Because I don't know how you would have known otherwise. YouTube is censoring comments related to Chavez, really? And then EDW Raptor for one sob. See, meme, that's how you do it. You don't go one tube. You do one sob. Paul is flipping, yes. Paul is flipping. So with that said, chat, we will be, I'm not sure what we're going to do tomorrow, but we're going to get back into the swing of things this week. And just remember, until always, guys, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Unless you're Nicolas Maduro, and that's like, You know, hanging out with FARC was probably not the best idea of all the ideas. Hanging out with legitimate communist terrorists, like, woo! That does not sound like the best plan, chat. I'm just saying. You know, you don't have to take my advice. You could do as you wish, but I would not hang out with communist terrorist groups like that. I just don't see it working. And I'm going to send you guys over to Yellow Flash right now. It's a little early, but I will get that now. And we're going to take care of that. So I'm going to send you guys over there now so you have the link. So I will see you guys soon. And yeah, take care, chat. Good night. Power Corrupts says 56-year-old generation Gen X American patriot here. Fuck our country. Yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, no. USA, motherfucker. USA. That's all I got to say. And then EDW says, we don't accept low energy here. We have standards that we expect. That's right. It's a good old Western gumption. But good night, chat, and I will talk to you guys later.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes it was.